Well, good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, and as I mentioned in yesterday's video, we got some stuff going on that is keeping my stress levels a little bit higher, and I can see that in my blood pressure. It's been slightly elevated. It has been consistently in like the 120 to 125 over 75 range. And my diastolic still pretty solidly in the low 70s, but my systolic is for the last couple of days up in the 130s, like low 130s. So I don't know if that probably has something to do with it. Probably, actually, is what has something to do with it. But I, that's gonna have to figure out how to bring that down a little bit. But anyway, today's Monday, and I didn't really, I'm feeling a little anxious this morning because we didn't really get to plan out the week, and didn't really get to plan out the menu, and things are a little bit kind of all over the place with some things that we got going on here. So I'm a little nervous about how today is going to go, because I also want this to set the whole week, set ourselves up for success this week, and so I'm just a little nervous, I guess, and that's showing in my blood pressure reading. I also didn't really sleep as well as I could have. So overall, that's where we are at the moment. I still haven't. I did my Lumen reading. That was fine. It was a 2, so 75%. But I still need to go weigh myself and sort of get started with the day. So I'm thinking that maybe today for lunch we'll do what we were supposed to do for dinner last night and do the eggs and the meat from the what's it called, the sandwich that we brought home yesterday, and see if we can kind of get going from there. But that is basically it. Let's just get started, and a little later on we'll find some time to sit down and do the look at the numbers and sort of do an analysis of last week, because we now would be a good time to really get started on this. Sort of, we should have started 2 weeks ago, and I have been pushing because I haven't gotten to do it, kind of wrap my head around it. But I think the longer we wait on that, the longer, or not the worse, but the sooner we do it, the better, basically. To just get the numbers there, be a little more, have it be a little more visible and drive a little more of that motivation. So, all right, we're going to do that, and I will see you guys in a bit.
It's time for lunch, and as soon as I remember that I had to start recording, my hands were kind of greasy and I didn't feel like washing them, and so I just figured I'd give you guys an update after I was done cooking. So I ended up doing, like I told you, some of those scrambled eggs with the leftover pork from the sandwich yesterday, and a little bit of bacon. I added some green onions, some rice that was left over, and then I also added some collagen and some pea protein, and then we had some arepas, so we're also going to have that. We'll take a look at the final numbers in a bit when we're done eating. But basically, this is like 3 eggs, about 45 grams of bacon, about like 90 grams, like 95 grams of pork, about 75 grams of rice, and then about 10 grams of collagen and 10 grams of pea protein per person. That is per person. So half for me, half for her. So we'll take a look at final numbers in a bit. But yeah, this is what lunch is going to be today.
All right, well, welcome everybody. This is going to be our first sort of technical analysis and walkthrough of this new sort of setup that I have for all the weekly averages and all the things that we're tracking for this current project that we're in, that is the 200 by 40. So I'm trying to get to 200 pounds by the time I turn 40, which will happen in a little bit over a year, in July of 2025. So I wanted to do this from the beginning. I wish that I had sort of had the ability to get started on making these sort of roundups and technical analysis from week 1. But at least we have the data, sort of. But I'm just getting around to it, and I'm notorious for over preparing, and then when it comes time to execute, it's been months and I sort of lose my oomph. And so one of the things that I've been focusing on lately is just pummeling through it, just trying to keep going, and not waiting until I have everything figured out to get started, which means that I'm only now on week 5 getting around to doing this. So let's just take a quick look. This is sort of going to be, the analysis for the current week, but also sort of the introduction for the entire thing. So there's a little site that we have that has all the different charts of the things that we're tracking and all that. And here we can see what the current week is that we're that we're analyzing in any given video. So currently we're analyzing week 5, which is the one that just ended yesterday. Technically, I'm a little bit further down the week, but we're not going to think about that because I am a time traveler. But yeah, so currently analyzing week 5, which was the week of June 17th to June 23rd, 2024. Yeah, so let's see. I have the first one here in the body section is the weekly average weight. So basically, in order to get to 200 by 40, I figured out what the average weight should be every week in order to be making, consistent progress. It's very linear because it's, math. So technically I should be losing around a little under 2 pounds per week. But, we know that's not going to be linear, and it's not going to line up exactly with the math, but it's an idea, it's a guide for us to sort of be able to stick with. And just, guide us. I feel that I'm so redundant with saying it, but yeah, it's a guide to know where we should technically be. Now, when we first started, so these first few weeks, I was still trying to figure it out. I was not eating, not doing my nutrition right, or I wasn't really doing it correctly, and it was a little difficult. And these are the last few weeks that you've seen the videos for, that I was sort of trying to figure out mentally how to really do this. But and so the reason I'm saying that is because we're a little bit behind. So we started at 310.4 on the first week. That was the average for the week that started on May 20th to May 26th. And then, we've been going down, but basically by week 5, we were supposed to be at 302.72 pounds, and we are at 306.4. So we are about 2 weeks behind. Now, like I said, when we were first sort of thinking about this and thinking about the project, it is long enough that with a little hard work we can catch up. It's not like we already failed. There's no failure here. And so this is sort of going to be able to show you, and for us to keep track of and be able to see what we're doing. So let's see. So this is the section. It's going to be body. Another section is going to be nutrition. The other section is sleep and activity. So these are the sections that we have. And each section also has a different color, just to make it easy. And then above each chart, there's going to be this target. And some of these that say the target this week is because the target is moving every week, so like with our weight, every week the target is going to be different because we're supposed to be losing weight. But this gives us an idea of how we're doing. And then you can see this is the week starting on May 20th, week started on May 27th, week started on June 3rd. And then here we have the weekly average weight in pounds. So it was 310.4 pounds for that week. So for this entire week, that was the average. For this entire week, this was the average. For this entire week, this was the average, and so on. So for the week that started on June 17th and just ended yesterday on June 23rd, The average was 306.4, and so we can see here that we're a little bit behind. All right, let's move down to body fat percentage. Oh, now this, basically, how am I doing this? I have a little scale. It's not the most accurate scale. I mean, I paid, I think, 10 bucks. I bought it online here in Argentina, and it's probably not great, but it's a way to just sort of gauge, and that's why I'm doing the average. So I'm trying to get on the scale every day or most days, and then just average out what the weight is for the week, what the weekly average is, and that's what we're looking at. So 306.4 was the average for this past week, and we were supposed to be at 302.72. That's okay. All right, now for body fat, same thing. We did the same calculation, and that's something that I've sort of been mapping out the numbers to give us more of an idea of how we're doing. You know, so like what do you call, like checkpoints, I guess. What are the checkpoints to make sure that along the journey to figure out, like, are we on track? And so same thing, according to, and this is something that I was talking about earlier. Now technically today's Thursday, so it's down the week. And this morning I was doing a walk, and I was talking about this, but I was wearing not the new camera. It's not a new camera, but it's new for me using it on this channel. A little camera that I can just wear here and sort of, talk and walk. And I was talking about this specifically, and then the camera cut out, and I don't know exactly what was actually heard or what, where it cut off. So I'm going to go through it again here so you guys have that information. Then when you see it on Thursday, you'll know, like, oh, that's what he was talking about. Sorry if this is confusing. It's a little bit for me too. So body fat percentage, I am measuring my body fat percentage by wearing that crazy Zozo Fit suit that I have that sort of takes a 3D model and then measures me. And so in that way I can see what my measurements are, and based on that and my weight, it estimates my body fat percentage. Now, again, when we started this, we started at 43% body fat. That's where we were on the week beginning May 20th. Now, I haven't been as consistent wearing it, so I measured it here and I measured it here. And I didn't measure it here, here, or here. But the way that these charts work, if I don't have any data on any specific date, it'll just move it to 0. And that just seems weird. It made the graph look really weird. So I basically just stuck with whatever this was for the ones that I didn't do. I'm gonna be as consistent as possible going forward, but I just wanted you to know that that's why this sort of looks like that. So I was 43% on this week, and I was 42% on this week. And so this is sort of where we are. Now, the thing that I was actually talking about this morning during my walk, in the future, is that the 200 by 40 was an arbitrary number that I chose because it's good to, or at least for me, it's good to think in whole numbers. It's easy for me to think in whole numbers, so it's something that I can get wrap my head around. Like, okay, we'll do 200 by 40, and that's about 2 pounds per week, which is sort of the upper range of healthy weight loss, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all of those things. And so it's arbitrary in that way, but it's something that at least gives us a general guidance of where we should be going. But the thing is that when I actually plugged in the numbers, if I get down to 200 pounds while maintaining at least what I currently have in muscle mass, so like lean body mass, my body fat percentage should technically be around 12%, which is, to me, it seems crazy low. I've never been that lean. I don't know that I know anyone who's that lean. Well, maybe I know a couple of people who might be that lean, but I don't know. It seems crazy. I don't even know if it's doable. Maybe it is, but it seems, I thought I was aiming for somewhere around like 20% body fat, but technically, based on what the numbers look like and what the math is showing me, if I get to 200 pounds, it would probably be I would probably be at around 12% body fat. So that is sort of the mapping out that I do for body fat. I don't know really how achievable this is, if it's really that realistic for me, unless I get really, really strict. We could. But basically, in order for us to meet that 200-pound weight and still be a healthy individual, make sure that we're not losing our lean body mass, our muscle mass, all of that stuff, then it should be at around 12% body fat. So this is sort of why the target, this thing that says, target this week, 40.94, is because it should be around that, if that's where we're going, if the math is correct in that way. So, right, we don't really know where we are, but last time we checked, we were at 42%. So technically, we're also a little bit behind, and it's about, we're again a couple weeks behind on that. But also, as I was doing this, I realized that we can also get a number for my lean body mass in pounds. And so basically, this is when we started, we were at 176.1, went down a little bit, but have gone up a little bit. Last week, we were at 178. This week, we're at 177.7. So we have gained some muscle according to, the way that we're, measuring. We have gained a little bit of muscle, and ideally, we want to get and stay in this range, 176 pounds, 175, 176. That's my target for eating 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. And that's how I get to this 176, because basically, in this moment, and this is something interesting that I also saw as I was sort of mapping this out and thinking about this and all that. According to this, I currently have my weight. If we were to get rid of all the fat, and I was 0% body fat, which nobody is, no one can be. If I were to get rid of all that fat, I would still weigh 176 pounds. That's what my body, like my organs and my bones and my muscle and my skin and all of it weighs that much. And my hair, but my hair weighs less than 2 pounds, so it does not fucking count. If I were to do that, I would still weigh 176 pounds. Now, if you look at the healthy BMI for someone my height and my age, so I'm currently still 38, about to be 39. I am 5'6", 5'6" and a half on a good day, but I usually just go, round it down to 5'6". I should be like the upper range of my healthy weight should be 155 pounds. But if we were to get rid of all my fat, I'm 176. So that also goes to show how BMI really just isn't a good measure of. It's not a good way of measuring what your healthy weight should be. And this is why, if I were able to get down to 12% body fat and be 200 pounds, like I will be in like top fucking condition, because that means that I have 176 pounds of lean body mass, which is, crazy. So this is going to be our target. This is why we're eating the, this thing keeps doing it when I try to highlight it. We're going to be doing this, aiming for 176 grams of protein, because we have 176 pounds of lean body mass. A little bit more now, 177, but let's just keep it around 175, 176, 175 really, because I do like the sort of like whole numbers, buck and 3/4. So it's good that we've seen this go up, and like I said before, we want to maintain. We don't want to go below 175, which we still haven't. So the way that these charts sort of adjust automatically, and as long as we don't go below this 175, technically we're good. And if we dip below 175, the goal is to go up, and so it makes sure that we're always going on top of 175. All right. Now, we go to blood pressure. Blood pressure is also another big portion of this. My blood pressure was high. I was in hypertension stage 2 or level 2, I can't remember. When we started, not when we started this, because at this point when we started this on the week starting on May 20th, I'd already been on blood pressure lower medications. And so it doesn't count, but we still want this to be, healthy, right? And hopefully be able to stop taking blood pressure medications and still maintain healthy blood pressure. So in here we have the two targets. So we have the systolic and diastolic pressure. So the systolic is when your heart is pumping blood, what that pressure is. And the diastolic is when your heart is at rest, what the blood pressure is. And we want them to be, this is the target. We want the systolic to be under 120 and the diastolic to be under 80. Now, when we started, this was at 130/79, so we've been good here. As low as 122, and then it's been up a little bit, 124, 125. This last week, we were at 124, and we're as low as 72. So my diastolic blood pressure when my heart is at rest is perfectly fine. But this one, the systolic, is a little bit high still. And I was reading a little bit about it, how it's called something called like isolated systolic hypertension. I think it's what it was. I don't remember, but something along those lines. And it said that is the most common type of hypertension in older people. And again, remember that the ring was telling me that I have the fitness of like a 75-year-old or more. Not good. Not good, you guys. So we're definitely going to have to keep working to lower this. But as of right now, we're at 124/72, which is an elevated, what they call an elevated blood pressure, but I'm technically a little bit, not as in a I'm not in as precarious a situation as I was before. So in that way, we keep going with that. All right. So now we're going to go to the next section. We go to nutrition. Oh, this thing, how does this do? Body, blood pressure, and then we go to nutrition, sleep. Oh, okay. There you go. Okay, nutrition. So this is another one where the target is going to be moving because the more weight I lose, the less calories I need. And so I'm going to have to adjust that to make sure that I continue being in a caloric deficit in order to continue losing weight. And basically when I mean losing weight, I mean losing fat. We don't want to be losing anything else. We are perfect in lean body mass. We have technically we have decent muscle mass, but we need to just shed the pounds. We need to shed the fat. So as we continue losing fat, we're going to need less calories, and that's why we have our target, which is always a moving target. Target this week is, so it's something that I mentioned before, and we're gonna see it here in the weekly, in the daily calorie burn. But basically, our target for the daily calories is 2,500 calories. Maybe I should add the target for this one. That's something that I will probably do in the future. Actually, let me just do it right now. It was interesting to see that two separate apps that are sort of measuring different things came up with something that made a lot of sense when looking at it together. They're suggesting I consume about 2,500 calories, and the Oura Ring is saying that I'm probably burning around 3,500 calories on average per day, giving us the 1,000 calorie deficit per day. That would put us in the 2 pound per week range, and would give us, starting on when we started, basically get us to the goal of 200 pounds by 40. Everything just sort of seemed to line up a little too well, and that's why I wanted to run with it, and that's what we're doing. So we started the first week, 29.25, so definitely over. The following 25.32, definitely over. And then we were under 24.37, so that's a little under. Then 28.76. This, the week before was a little bit definitely higher. But then this past week, at 2418, we're a little bit under. So, we want to be around here. It's not going to be 2500 perfectly every week, but we want to be around here. Maybe, honestly, I would like to see like not going above 2600 and not dropping below 2400. This is between these two spots is where I want to live, basically. That's where we want to be, between those two spots. And then because my Oura Ring is, I'm wearing it every day and it's measuring all my movement and stuff, then it's measuring how many calories I'm burning daily on average. So for this first week, 3485 went up to 3689, down to 3510. That 1 week, this 1 week that I was eating a lot more calories, I was also burning a lot more calories. And so if we look at this, I was still at 2876 in calories consumed and 3961. I was still, for that week, at a 1,000 calorie deficit. And so, not terrible. And this, I mean, it's interesting to see that this shows that in here I was consuming more calories and not doing as much, so we don't want to see this. But then, especially in these last 3 weeks, we see this sort of like going in tangent with each other, in tandem. Did I say tangent? In tandem with each other. So this is something that's good to see, and we want to see that. Okay, now this one is the weekly average morning fat burn. And this one is, we don't really have a target for this. I mean, this is when I wake up in the morning and I measure with Lumen. Am I in a state of fat burn or am I in a state of carb burn? And we have it between 1 and 5. Those are the 5 measurements that Lumen has. And ideally, you want to wake up with a measurement of 1 or 2 to be in fat burn as opposed to in carb burn. If you wake up at carb burn, there are a number of things there are a number of things that could be the reason for that. And it could be like, and the more I do it, the more I learn about certain things. It's not just the amount of the carbs that you consume that do this, that get you in carb burn, but also stress levels, if you consumed alcohol, if you fast for too long. Again, metabolism is a complex process, and its goal is not to make us look good. Its goal is to keep us alive. And so, and it's backfiring because of the current environment, modern environment. But anyway, without going too deep into that, these past few weeks we were good, 2.14, 2.2, those are pretty good. Then we went to 2.8. That means that we had a little more, we had a couple of threes, a little bit higher. We don't really have a target, but we want to be, I guess the target for this, let me add it also as well, would be 2 or under. So the target for this is to be 2 or under, which means that we didn't wake up in any carb, we didn't get with a 3 or higher any day of the week in a state of carb burn. Because I guess if we have only 2s and then even 1 3, this is going to move it up. Although I guess if we had only 1s and 1 3, that's still going to give us, okay. So it's not a perfect system, but for the most part, if we do a 2 or under, we're probably good. That's where we want to be. And as you can see, we haven't been there. We haven't gotten there yet, but we will, I guess, as we keep working on this. So for the most part, we got 2s, 2.8. This last one, 2.29. Okay. And now we go down to the nutrition aspect. So the three big ones: carbs, protein, and fat. The only one that really has a target is protein, because technically there's, the carb goal. It changes every day. I mean, Lumen does tell me what I should do, but it changes every day. And same thing with fat. And technically, same thing with protein. But we know that the recommendations for protein are a little bit low and they need to be slightly higher. So our target for the week is basically always 176 because that's what my lean body mass is. And that's where we want to be. We don't want to lose that. And so we can see that this past week was the highest at 144, but we're still under. We're still under the goal of 176, so we're going to have to work to get that up. And then as far as carbs, they're below 137. This is the lowest week. Also, interestingly enough, the higher the protein, the lower the carbs and fat compared to other. So they work in opposition to each other. The more carbs, the less protein, and so on. And so we definitely want to keep this get this one in particular, the weekly average protein, we want to get it to 176. But since we have the measurements for all these other guys, it's good to see what else we were doing. So that is that for nutrition. Now let's go to sleep. Oh, we're already in that section. Okay, so sleep is also a very important part of this, most important really. And so for sleep, Oura Ring is also the reason why I like to wear it, and I use this guy because I've never really gotten used to using the watch, and this is much less intrusive, I guess, more minimalistic, and so it's easier for me to get it. I've worn an Apple Watch before and a Fitbit, and I've never been able to consistently stick with it. This one makes a big difference in how small and it is. And so for sleep, basically the Oura app and the Oura Ring measure a bunch of different things about your sleep. The sleep stages, total sleep, a bunch of other stuff. And instead of measuring, keeping track of everything individually, because they do it in the app for us and it just seems like it would be too redundant and really not necessary, they give you every morning a sleep score where it looks at everything and basically says, how well you slept on a scale of 0 to 100. But, I've never seen, well, I actually, if you skip a night, or something, something really bad, you might get a score in the 20s or 30s or something like that. I feel like maybe I've only seen it once, but the idea is that what they tell you is any score 85 or higher is optimal sleep. You're doing great. And so that's our target. We want to be, the average sleep score for the week should be 85 or higher, which means that we're having excellent sleep. And that's not the case. Start at sleep score 67, 78, 73, 80, 80 again. So we're having good sleep. We're sleeping okay, but it can be better, and we need to improve that. Then I'm also measuring total sleep in minutes. So even if I let's say I go to bed at 11 and I get out of bed at 8, right? That's 9 hours, but I didn't sleep the full 9 hours. And that's one of the things that this measures. Even if you're not fully conscious, we do wake up throughout the night, and especially someone like me with sleep apnea. Sometimes we wake up throughout the night, we might not be conscious, but our brains aren't resting. And so it's important to measure that to know how much of actual sleep we're getting. And the ideal would be 8 hours, which is 480 minutes. The reason I'm doing it as minutes instead of hours and minutes is because the way that Notion, which is where I have the database with all this that I use to generate this graphics, doesn't really have a good way to input 8 hours and 37 minutes. And so it's easier to just do it in minutes, and so it's a total in minutes. So 8 hours is about 480 minutes. And we want to get to that. So 396, 462, this is the closest. So this week, let's see, and we had a decent score. Then of course our score goes down and the number, so these two are definitely related, obviously. The less I sleep, the farther away I am from my 8 hour sleep goal, of actual sleep, not just being in bed, but actual sleep, the more that the score is going to go down. And so this one is only 406 minutes, 429. So yeah, that it has continued to improve a little bit. So again, we're going to keep an eye on this stuff as we move forward. And if we're having a difficult time sort of naturally reaching the scores that we want, then we're going to have to, take some measures and figure out like how we can improve it more actively, which is not necessarily anything. I'm not really doing anything actively to improve my sleep right now. I'm hoping that I'm focusing on these other parts like nutrition and exercise, and that'll probably help improve sleep a little bit. But if it's not happening as we keep progressing, then we're going to have to find another way. And then, because I do have sleep apnea, I have pretty severe sleep apnea, then I am also measuring my average AHI. So AHI is the apnea-hypopnea index, which basically means how well managed your sleep apnea is. And this measures the number of incidents of apnea, so blockages to your respiratory tract throughout the night. And it measures apneas and hypopneas and, like total obstructive. It's a bunch of different things that it measures, and it just gives you, again, one sort of global score for the whole thing. And then in that case, ideally, your sleep apnea is well managed if you get a score under 5. Now, I have been pretty consistently under 5, usually like 4s. This went up a little bit, 4s, but then this past week was a little bit higher, and I'm guessing that it didn't have anything to do with me, but the machine, not even the machine, but the mask. I think the strap in the back of the mask was getting a little loose, and I wasn't getting enough pressure to maintain and so that's probably why I was, to maintain the pathway, the respiratory tract open so that I could breathe properly, and that's probably why I had a little bit higher AHI, but again, we keep monitoring this and taking a look at it and see if we can do something. Like I already tightened my mask, and my AHI has gone down a little bit, and so we'll see. And then the final section, activity, we're only measuring 2 things. So I remember last time I saw an endocrinologist for my weight. He said, and this was a couple of years ago now, he said the absolute minimum that I should be walking is an average of 8,000 steps per day. And so like that is something that we are trying to do, and that's why the goal is 8,000 steps. That's what we're trying to get to. And let's see, so we started the first week 6,600 steps, but then we went up 8,900, perfect. Then we went down 7,400 a little bit. The week before was ridiculous. I did a lot of walking, so 11,428 average steps per day. Some days were pretty high, so so this is good. I mean, this is more than optimal. And then this past week we were down a little bit again, 7,500. So it's not bad, but we definitely want to get to at least 8,000 steps. And this kind of keeps it front and center to make sure that we're doing that. And then also, the Oura Ring gives me like an activity goal target of like how many like active calories I should be burning. So other than my basal metabolic rate, so the amount of calories that my body uses naturally in order to just function, any exercise that I do is going to contribute to burning more of those calories. And so it usually it changes a little bit. Like if it senses that I haven't been sleeping well, and something that they call a readiness score is a little bit low because I'm feeling under the weather, and it has different ways of measuring that, like measuring my body temperature, my heart rate, all of these things. Based on all that, if it senses that I'm maybe not up for it,
then it lowers the amount of activity that I should be doing for that day. Or if I'm getting really good readings and it senses that my body is feeling really good, then it increases those. The average, sort of my baseline, is 500. So if I'm feeling under the weather or not up for it, it lowers it as far down. I think it's like 350 I've seen, or it can go as high as like 600 or 700 if I'm feeling up for it. But the target is to meet at least 100% of those active calories. Sometimes we're going to even go over that because let's say that it only asked me to burn 500 calories today, but I did a lot of walking, so I ended up burning 1,000 calories, extra calories, active calories. And so the numbers can go above 100%. And actually they have every week. So we started out with 107, then we went to 142, 109, 175. This week was very active. And then 112. So far we're doing good. We're doing well with that, and we want to make sure that we get to at least 100%. That's the target. That's why we have it here, and that's what we're working towards. And if it's here and it's when we're reminded of it, then we're more likely to try to do it and stick with it. So there you go, you guys. This is it. This is the system that we have to keep track of this. Hopefully, checking in with these metrics once a week together is enough of a motivation to sort of get us started and keep us motivated. But yeah, this is what we got. Let's keep improving, and let's see. We're gonna get there. 200 by 40. All right. Thank you, guys. See you later.
So it's time for dinner, and I decided that we were going to have some steak and potatoes. So I bought these little potatoes to make, and some entraña, which is sort of like a skirt steak, I guess would be the closest thing. And so I'm just going to make this. I haven't really looked at what the macros will be. It's been kind of a hectic day, but this is what we're going to go with. And yeah, that's it. So let me go ahead and make it. I'll show you guys what it looks like, and then we'll look at the macros and sort of get an idea for the day.
All right, and here we have it. So it is this, like I said, about 400 grams of skirt steak, basically, is what it is. And there's about 150 grams of potatoes. And they really only have they were sauteed in a little olive oil, and then had some garlic and oregano. And then I did a little wine reduction for this as well. So I don't know what the macros look like right now, but we'll probably do it after the fact. And we'll take a look at all the numbers, I guess, for the day, because I haven't really done any of the numbers so far. But basically, this is dinner, so yay.
All right, let's take a quick look at what the macros ended up being for this meal. So if we take a look at it, it was about 180 grams that I ended up eating of fingerling potatoes. And I weighed them before I cooked them, so that's why I'm using that. Between the cooking the potatoes and the steak was about 15 grams of olive oil, 13.5 ounces of steak, and then I used about a glass to deglaze the pot and the pan and make that little red wine reduction. And then I had a glass of wine with dinner, and then about 20 grapes for dessert. I gotta say, this was very satisfying, obviously. But the good thing is that we didn't go over our carbs for today. So we had 150 grams of carbs available, and we did 128. And then we went over our protein, which is good. We're consuming enough protein. And the protein from lunch was, pork, bacon, eggs, it's good sources. And there's a certain variety there that's good. And then a little under for fat. And then, of course, our calories are a little bit low. I guess we want to be closer to 2,500, but this is perfectly fine, and I am perfectly satiated. And so, yeah, I mean, this is not bad at all, is what ended up being the day for today. So overall, good stuff. And I feel like today the food was very, very satisfying in that way. A little bit of effort to cook it, and of course we're not going to be doing this every day, but in general, it was pretty good to have something that was as satisfying as this was today. That is it. Yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.